What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we've had some fireworks today, folks. We've got a lot of stuff coming out of the White House. We've got a lot of stuff coming out of the corporate press. We've got a lot of lies coming from the mainstream news, y'all. Check this out right quick.
Getting a recession named after you as president is not easy. It usually is not so clear, not an absolute straight line of causation from presidential policies to a recession. And so no one called any of the recessions of our lifetimes a president recession, a Bush recession, or a Reagan recession, or, none of that. They didn't try to do that with the name of any other president during our lifetimes. Of course, there were no recessions under the last three Democratic presidents, President Biden, President Obama, President Clinton. Donald Trump has failed miserably in his attempt to blame what even he suggests may be a looming recession on President Biden, who handed Donald Trump the highest performing American economy in history and the highest performing stock market in history.
Just lies over and over and over again. Didn't bat a freaking eyeball, right? Like, come on, my guy. Like, you could tell, like, he stumbled there for a second when he said Obama. Like, there was no recession under Obama. Is that so? I mean, it may not have been Obama's fault, right? Because he had just come in, but it was still under Obama. That was still the president of the United States. And as a matter of fact, he's been in the office for the same amount of time Trump has at the time, right? Trump's only been in there like 6-8 weeks. I mean, what is this guy even talking about here? And then he goes on to lie again. Says he handed Donald Trump the highest performing American economy ever. That's not true, folks. We've been in a kind of a bit of a recession for at least a year now. Like, we've covered several stories over the past year, as a matter of fact, of all these department stores closing. Layoffs all over the place. The corporate press firing people just by the thousands in some places, right? Like, just companies left and right going under. You mean to tell me that, the economy was the best it's ever been? Yeah, maybe for rich billionaires, but not people like you and I. Like, not regular folk. People that have to get up and go to work every day. I'm sorry, my guy. This dude, they just lie. And that, once again, they don't bat a freaking eyelid when doing so. It is absurd. But I want to cover something else right quick, y'all. We had Karoline Leavitt just come out blasting at the corporate press this afternoon, y'all. Check this out right quick.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. Mm-hmm. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not true.
And I'm curious
he's not doing
why
that.
He's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off.
Well,
Tariffs
not the
are a
country
tax
itself.
cut for the American people. And the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
They
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies.
You haven't.
They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
Oh, regret giving a question to the Associated Press. You gotta love that, folks. You gotta love that right there. Now, what she kind of did slip up a little bit when she said it's a tax on the country. It's not. It's a tax on the importer. They pay as they come in when they drop off whatever goods it is, right? The companies pay for this, not the country itself. Now, I kind of went kind of deep into this a little bit because, I've been hearing the corporate press and the mainstream news just blatantly. They're not lying about the tariffs, if you will. They're not openly lying, but once again, like if you want to call it a lie by omission, they are lying. outright because they're not telling you the whole thing. All right, so two things. I'm going to break this one down right quick. So what Donald Trump is wanting to do is tax breaks. Okay, so they call it, oh, it's a tax. You're going to pay for it. You, Mr., good citizen over there, you're going to pay for Trump's tariffs. Well, if he's giving you a tax break at the same time, so, are those tax breaks that are actually coming from the federal government going to compensate for whatever the tariff is, right? So if we go through with this, right, let's think about this in general, and then we'll break down how tariffs actually work. And we'll get to those lies right quick. But, okay, let's just say for a second. All right, so Trump puts all these tariffs on all these imported goods. Okay, so what does that tell you? Now, if you take the corporate press narrative right quick, then it's just, whatever that tariff is how much that whatever product is, it's going to go up by 25% or 50% or 100% or whatever it may be, right? Now, if Donald Trump is reducing your federal tax, your income tax by that same amount, where's the harm? You're still paying the exact same amount. Now, where I like the tariff idea a little bit better is a lot of times, like I said, the corporate press isn't telling you the whole story on this because, sure, the company can choose to just raise the price of whatever product that is by whatever percentage tariff that is coming in. A lot of times they don't, because a lot of these imported goods, they try to stay competitive with the market, right? So let's say China's getting tariffed through the nose, right? Okay, so we raise tariffs on China. So what they're going to do, all these companies, they're not just going to pass that on to you. They're going to try to absorb as much of that as they can to stay competitive. Now, what I went and did just for the purposes of this video, I went and asked an AI just right quick, hey, give me an easy, quick breakdown of how tariffs work. Check this out, y'all. It was pretty good, as a matter of fact, too. Tariffs are taxes imposed by governments on goods and services imported from or exported to other countries. They're typically used to regulate international trade, protect domestic industries, or generate revenue. Here's a breakdown of how they work. Basic mechanism. A tariff is applied as either a fixed fee per unit, e.g., 10 per ton of steel, or a percentage of the value, e.g., 25% of the price of imported cars, for instance. When a foreign company exports goods to a country with a tariff, the importer, usually the buyer in the destination country, pays the tax to the government at the point of entry, like a port or border. Who pays? Technically, the importer pays the tariff to customs authorities, but in practice, the cost often gets passed on, one, to consumers through higher prices for imported goods, to the exporter if they lower prices to stay competitive, or split between both depending on market dynamics, supply, demand, and price elasticity. Now, let's take all that into account right quick. So, if Donald Trump, if we are reducing taxes, federal income tax, which is a fixed thing, by the same amount that we are paying extra in tariffs, I think, like, in other words, paying extra as a percentage of the tariff, right? The fact that some of these companies are going to absorb some of that tariff cost, lower their overhead a little bit just to stay competitive, depending on supply and demand, blah, 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 and all that good stuff. Right, so we end up coming out better with the tariffs because if we're getting taxed, that's a fixed amount, right? The tariffs, that's not necessarily a fixed amount because, once again, the company is going to absorb some of that tariff. I think it could be a good way that we actually end up paying less money. But you never know. It just depends on how that all floats out. But I just can't stand the idea these people keep lying to everybody about the tariffs and say, you pay for the tariff. Well, that's not necessarily true. And once again, what they're not telling you is Donald Trump is trying to get all these tax cuts to go through. So if we get tax cuts and we pay more for products and services, well, products, just not services. I don't know why I said services. I guess that was a habit thing. But if we're paying a little bit more for products, but less in income taxes, where's the harm? Like, I don't get it. Why these people feel the need to not give you the whole story, to not tell you that, yes, the company itself is probably going to absorb some of that cost, some of that tariff, right? It's not on the country, which she kind of did screw up on that. Karoline Leavitt did. She probably meant to say company. She probably didn't mean to say, because she's not an idiot. She's a smart girl there. She is definitely, and I can say that because I'm older than she is. That is right. I am older than she is. As a matter of fact, kind of giving away my age a little bit, if you will. But I've got a news article, which is some pretty good news for us, I must say. Check this out. This is how trade negotiations work, y'all. Canada backs down from 25% electricity surcharge after Trump threats. And I'm highly surprised that NBC framed this story in such a way. Now, I don't know if you guys heard, but the Ontario Premier, I think his name is Doug Ford. Yeah, Doug Ford. Placed a 25%, right, like Canada, for some reason, I don't know why, sells electricity to 3 different states, New York, Wisconsin, and I think Michigan. And I don't know why that is, but, you know, with Trump imposing tariffs on Canada, which are retaliatory, by the way. Don't let the corporate press lie to you. Like, they're actually trying to tell people that, oh, Trump just came out of nowhere with these tariffs. That is not true, right? We had MSNBC telling us that these came out of nowhere. We had free trade agreement with Canada. Well, then how come we were getting a 300% tariff on many, many dairy products? As a matter of fact, there was a lot. And it wasn't much outside of dairy products, like cheese and milks and stuff like that, right? It wasn't anything really outside of that. But still, if we're supposed to have free trade with Canada, why are we getting tariffed at 300%, as a matter of fact? That's absurd, if you ask me. So the tariffs on Canada were retaliatory to get Canada to stop that. Hey, if we have a free trade agreement, then let's trade freely. Why are we getting punished in the United States when we also have a trade deficit with Canada? So, you know, Trump imposes these tariffs. Canada says, well, we're not weak over here. We're going to impose a tariff on this electricity, threatening to shut down the electrical grid. You know, stop selling electricity. He actually threatened that and then said, well, we'll just put a tariff on this. We'll put a 25% tax on it. So then Trump goes nuclear on that ass. And, yeah, retaliatory. And then we get what we got here. And now we've got Ontario Premier Doug Ford said Tuesday he had agreed to suspend a 25% surcharge on electricity imports into the U.S. after conversing with the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in the wake of President Donald Trump's threats to hike steel and aluminum tariffs on the nation to 50%. In a statement issued with Lutnick and posted on X, Ford said he and Lutnick would now be meeting Thursday alongside the United States Trade Representative to discuss a renewal of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Act ahead of Trump's self-imposed April 2nd reciprocal tariff deadline. That's right. So these weren't just tariffs out of nowhere. They were absolutely reciprocal because we were already getting tariffed, have been getting tariffed on dairy products for years at a 300%. It was like 3 something. It was like 325, I think, or 340. I forget the exact number right off, y'all. But yeah, it was over 300%, which is insane. Why? If we're supposed to have free trade between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. That's absurd. But in response, Ontario agreed to suspend its 25% surcharge on exports and electricity to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota. Sorry, it wasn't Wisconsin, it was Minnesota, Ford said. In subsequent remarks at the White House Tuesday afternoon, Trump said he was now looking at reducing tariffs on Canada. Asked if he would lower them, he said, probably so. I'll let you know if 50% tariffs on Canada are going into effect, he said. Major stock indexes, which had plunged on Trump's earlier tariff threats, rallied to the green upon the suspension announcement. Trump had posted to his Truth Social platform earlier Tuesday that steel and aluminum tariffs would go from 25% to 50% starting Wednesday in response to the province of Ontario placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States. Trump added that he would be declaring a national emergency for the 3 states Ontario has targeted so that the tariffs could go into effect. Trump also called on Canada to drop its duties on American dairy products and threatened to substantially increase tariffs on cars imported into the United States if Canada did not drop other egregious long-time tariffs. The auto tariff, Trump warned, without citing evidence. What? Oh my God. Without citing evidence? What do you mean without citing evidence? Essentially permanently shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada. Like, what do you mean without citing evidence? It is so easy to go look all this stuff up. As a matter of fact, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't get why they always throw this in there. Without citing evidence, of course he's not going to say, look, here's all the evidence. He's just going to put in a statement, hey, this is what I'm doing, because it's a well-known fact, right? Like, come on, people. If you put that large of tariffs on cars that are imported from Canada into the United States, yeah, those car companies, they're just going to move their factories back into the United States, which they came from here in the first place. That's the point of these tariffs, by the way. And these people don't understand. They want to make it contentious without citing evidence. Like, what do you mean without citing evidence here? Like, I just can't stand NBC and all these corporate press outlets for doing that kind of garbage nonsense. Like, what do you mean without citing evidence? Those car companies came from the United States. Ford, General Motors, Dodge, Pontiac, Chrysler, all of them, right? Like, Pontiac doesn't really exist anymore, but you know what I'm saying, right? They used to exist, and they've all moved to Canada for some reason, right? Because we decided, oh, we've got free trade, and they pay cheaper, so, hey, well, why not go up there and build China. This is where the bloodbath hoax came from. China's building all these electric car factories in Mexico because of cheap labor, because the cost of living is third world, essentially. So, yeah, they're going to pay a lot less, and then they've got free trade from Mexico to here. That's why Donald Trump said, look, on any Chinese import, you're going to pay this much. You're going to put a tariff on that. So instead of building that factory in Mexico, they decide, hey, if we're going to sell a bunch of cars in America, hey, let's build that factory in America and give Americans jobs. Right? That's the whole point of these tariffs, by the way. It's the long term. This is what Trump is looking at. He's not looking to make your life harder in the immediate, which it will. Possibly, depending on how his tax cuts go through Congress or whatever, right? And once again, if all this kind of goes back and forth, you might not be paying more when it all boils down. Essentially, you might be paying the same. And, some of these rich corporations might actually end up sucking up some of that and paying the government whatever their revenue may be, right? But that's the whole point. This is the long term. So they're going to get tired of absorbing some of these costs of the tariffs because they're not just going to impose, right? Think about that for a second. You put a 100% tariff on all Chinese imported cars. Do you really think that they're going to actually just hand that off to you? Do you really think you're going to pay 100% more for a Chinese electric vehicle? I doubt the market works that way. They would not be able to sell any of those cars. That's how markets work. And this is why Trump is going in on this angle. And this is why I can't stand the corporate press for constantly leaving this out. They're just telling you, letting you know that you're going to absorb all of it, which is a blatant lie. It really is. It's a blatant lie because I don't care. Even if they do put 100% of that, you don't have to buy imported products for crying out loud. Or you don't have to buy those imported products. Because it's not like he's tariffing, if that's even a word. It's not like he's imposing tariffs on every country in the entire world. And we get imports from all over the damn place. So, if it's mainly just Canada, Mexico, and China, which that's all I've heard about, as a matter of fact, I haven't heard about any other tariffs on any other countries. But, so if it's just those countries, hang on, what percentage of products do we buy that are Canadian, Mexican, and Chinese? Now, I know we do buy a lot of Chinese stuff, right? But the point is to get China to try to force Chinese companies to build manufacturing bases in America and stop building them in Mexico and stop building them in Canada. Build them here to make us strong again. That is the point. It's the long term. And Democrats, they're always all about that right here, right now. That's what Democrats are all about. Let's finish this thing out because I got a little bit left. I'm sorry I got hung up on that, but I can't stand these lies by these people, y'all. Trump then doubled down on some of his recent rhetoric about making Canada part of the U.S. though he added it would get to keep its national anthem. He did say that in his post. The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state, Trump wrote. This would make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Canada has quickly emerged as a target of Trump's ire amid his second presidential term, putting America's closest ally on rockier footing. What do you mean by that? See, this is opinion. This isn't news right here. He hasn't received, or Canada hasn't received Trump's ire. Right? Canada already imposed tariffs on some of our some of their products for us to pay to them. Right? So it's retaliatory, by the way. So what are you talking about? And then the whole thing about making Canada the 51st state, that's just humor. Do you guys not understand humor? Why are you saying Trump's ire? You see what I mean? They're just lying to everybody. Earlier this month, Trump instituted, then pulled back, tariffs on a variety of Canadian goods as he goaded its leaders and blamed them for a lack of action on fentanyl trafficking. Relatively little of the drug is seized at the northern border compared to the U.S. border with Mexico. So what? Right? That a lot comes across the southern border. So if it's relatively low, that means there's still a good bit that comes across the northern border. It doesn't matter how much it is. Like, see what I mean by this is no longer fact? This is no longer news. The corporate press, they're just giving out opinions at this point. In another Truth Social post late Monday, Trump called Canada a longtime tariff abuser. That is right. The United States is not going to be subsidizing Canada any longer, he warned, adding, "We don't need your cars, we don't need your lumber, we don't need your energy, and very soon you will find that out." While Mexico has faced similar tariff threats and rhetoric, that country's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has succeeded in assuaging Trump. Right. The strategy has not worked for Canadian officials who have more aggressively retaliated with tariffs and public comments. I'm not too sure why he continues to attack his closest friends and allies, but we need the American people to speak up, Ontario's Ford said Tuesday in an appearance on CNBC. Right? If we're your closest friends and allies, how come you are bludgeoning us over the head over these dairy products? Can you answer that for us, Canada? We need those CEOs to actually get a backbone and stand in front of them and tell them this is going to be a disaster. It's mass chaos right now. No, it's not. It is not. It's the corporate press that's making it seem like it's chaos. But it's not. It's simple tariffs. It's simple trade negotiations. We want you to do something that you are not doing. So we're going to threaten you with tariffs. And hey, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to clean up your border, for crying out loud, then you can just pay the tariffs. And then, once they get tired of paying these tariffs, because they're getting outcompeted in the market, because, why they have to pay 25% more because they won't clean up their border. And so now they can't be competitive in the market anymore because they're having to pay 25% more than everybody else. They'll decide, hey, let's just build a manufacturing plant in the United States, and then we win. In any situation, in any situation when it comes to trade, we win, regardless. We will win anything in between the United States and Canada. We can turn off Canada's economy if we wanted to, as a matter of fact. We could easily do that. We are the biggest economy in the world, for crying out loud. I mean, we can push some weight around, and Donald Trump knows this. And he's trying to make us a much more resilient economy because, yeah, we might be the biggest, but we're not the most resilient. As a matter of fact, because, we are highly susceptible to China. Highly susceptible to China, as a matter of fact. But, that's a whole nother video. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. It blows my mind that these people just continually try to lie their way through these tariffs. Don't let them fool you, folks. Don't let them fool you. If you got to come over here to get your logic, then, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.